He was an entertainer, whether you know him as Chuck, Chucky, Chuckles, or Rusty Pipes. He was a ball of fire. He made you laugh. You couldn't help but laugh. When music would come on, he would get those little skinny arms and legs a-dancing and hopping around and just made you shake your head. But he loved life and he loved the people in his life. And so he wanted to make sure that we all, no matter what mood we were in, if we were in a bad mood, we were going to leave in a good mood. And if we were in a good mood, we were going to leave in an even better mood, because that's Chuck.
You know, his passion, you know, for when he got involved with something, and it was good to, you know, to see someone that had a passion for something other than, you know, his personal gains. His passion for youth football, his passion for Mizzou, for the quarterback club, for Mizzou football. That to me, you know, I admired that. You know, and I've mentioned that to other people before. We all should have a passion like that, and you know, that's why he was certainly one of the reasons why he's so special.
He was always there for me, and he always, no matter what was going on with Chuck, I always knew I was first with him. He always made sure, even as his health started to decline, that he wanted to make sure I was doing okay, how I was doing. When I started to transition into a new career, he was one of the very first that was there and always checking on me. And then, you know, as I moved up through the chamber and eventually became chair, he was there with guidance and, more often than not though, just support.
In the business of people, that's what Chuck was a mentor for. You know, it really showing me how to treat people, you know, treat everybody with respect. You know, when you treat people with respect, in return you get respect. And I think, you know, that really symbolizes what Chuck was about. And I think that really tells you, you know, how much he loved his community and the people in his community.
You could call him anytime, day or night, whatever you needed. If he couldn't do it, he knew somebody that could.
Hard to remember exactly when I met Chuck, but he was so involved in the chamber at that time, and he probably, knowing like him, probably just stopped in my office unannounced, grabbed a donut or something that was probably out front, and came in and started talking, introduced himself. He's not a shy guy, as you know.
Well, I'm a much better person because of my relationship with Chuck Everett. I was not a volunteer of virtually anything until I met him, and he got me excited about it and was able to show me the things that I needed to do and to help other people, and for that I'm a better person.
Chuck always told me to be myself and follow through in what I believed in, to stand up for what I believed in, and to stand behind that no matter what. And that served me well in all aspects of my life, personal and professional, and then in the volunteer roles too. And that's what we saw in him. You know, no matter what organization he was participating in, and if it was in his work life or his personal life, that's what you saw in Chuck. You heard from him what he believed in, and he stood up for that at all times. He was the epitome of what we are there for, reaching out to new businesses, congratulating our existing businesses on their accomplishments, making them feel welcome in our community. These are the people that are generating revenue. These are the people that are supporting our community, that are giving back to our not-for-profits. And he was the circle of making sure that they felt welcome, and that's what we did in the ambassadors. And I will always be grateful to him for insisting that I join that group.
He came to me right away and talked about the quarterback club and getting involved with that and the responsibility I had with that. And so, you know, you could tell without question the passion he had for Mizzou football. And I think we had a good relationship, you know. He was always wanting everything to work out perfect. Anytime anything happened, he wanted things perfect, and rarely did they ever work out perfect.
Why did Chuck want to do the bobblehead? He wanted to do something relating to Coach Pinkel. And in Chuck's mind, he thought a bobblehead would be a good thing.
Well, first of all, he come to me and says, I want to do a bobblehead of you. I said, you're not going to do a bobblehead of me. First of all, nobody's going to want a bobblehead of me, number one. Number two is, that's crazy. I mean, you know, I'm just a football coach here. No, we're going to do this. And he did this whole thing, and he said, I want you to prove up when I get it. So anyway, he talked over a period of about a month or two, he talked me into doing it. And I said, you guys can raise money for the quarterback club, and that's great. So that was the reason I okayed it. And so you know, they created this bobblehead, and right afterwards I went over to one of my granddaughters at their house, and she had the bobblehead in her hand and she was punching it, and then she goes, "Look, this is you, Papa," and she threw it against the wall and went and did something else. So, you know, that kind of keeps you back down to earth. That, you know, bobbleheads can be used for many things.
nervous, and anxious. Those are two adjectives that don't normally describe Chuck Everett. But I have been the chairperson and the coordinator of the Quarterback Club Black and Gold Fashion Show for many, many years. A few years ago, I decided to integrate male clothing into the show. The football coaches' wives model each year the black and gold fashions. So the first person I asked to model and escort some of the coaches' wives was Chuck. He was so thrilled at being asked to do that. But when it came that evening, actually, let me back up. Night before at rehearsal, he was so anxious that he couldn't stand still. But then, could Chuck ever stand still? But he was so nervous. And the evening of the show, I had to just literally put my hands on his shoulders and say, Chuck, just calm down. You know these people. You can do this. And he just buckled up, took his coach's wife by the arm, walked on that runway, and stole the show.
When I first met Chuck and he was mentoring me about how the league worked and things that I could do to help, you know, he was open and honest about what he perceived as shortcomings as a father. And I think in his way, he gave everything that he had to those kids out there because I think he felt guilty at times about potential shortcomings. Chuck's impact in CYFL is without a doubt the single biggest impact that I'm aware of in the league itself. The league realistically would not still exist today in its current form without his dedication to the league as well as the countless hours that he gave.
Chuck came to me about a year after I got here and said in September, well, the CYFL he's involved with the coaching and running that, and you know what a remarkable responsibility you have, and how important it was to him to have these hundreds and hundreds of kids, and all these adults that I know went through this when he was, you know, for years with him, and so. You know, I would always go there generally around second or third game on a Monday right before my radio show. I would go there and I would talk to the kids there, and he asked me to do that. He'd bring them all up. He'd herd them all in, and it was generally, I don't know, 400 or 500 kids. And you know, it was interesting because you know I talked about football, but he also heard me talk at other times, and he wanted me to make sure I talked about being a good teammate, being a good person, caring about people, no bullying, being respectful to all your friends and things like that. So things that you get out of sport that other than just throwing football around and playing football. And he had a profound impact on so many kids. And I think I'll be grateful for him forever. And to me, that's one of the greatest accomplishments he ever had, was that he cared so much about those kids, and having him a part of the CYFL allowed them to grow and mature into better young men as they moved on, from that point to the rest of their life.
He always did stuff with purpose and value. He did stuff for the kids. He did stuff for other people. He taught people how to pay it forward, from giving a cup of coffee to somebody homeless on the side of the street to giving back to the kids for CYFL. I mean, Chuck was always in it for other people. He got just as much out of giving to other people as people received from him.
When Chuck and Bobby transitioned and bought a Ward Pet Supply, they were just down the street from the hotel, and so Chuck was still there in the hotel every day. And I started to notice, as he was typically there for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, at lunchtime a cooler would appear with him though. And so I'm like, what is going on? Where's my food going? Watching food costs and everything else. Well, Chuck would just pack up lunches and take them back to all the college kids working at a Ward Pet Supply for him, because he was taking care of his staff. And it just kind of became a running joke that at between 11 and 12, you'd see Chuck come in with his little igloo cooler and head towards the kitchen and pack up what he needed for the staff for that day.
Just in conversation, we started talking and found out that August 2nd is a day that we both shared. It ended up being our birthdays. The really cool thing that he thought about this year specifically is he was born in 1939 and he was 76 years old. I was born in 1976 and I'm 39 years old. And so he thought that was pretty cool to share that no other year would be able to do that for us. There are so many memories. Many just keep you laughing. I mean, that's what keeps you going. And so when it was our birthday, he would call me, and I would purposely not answer the phone because I wanted him to sing to me.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Michelle. Happy birthday to you, and may you have many more. Love you, kiddo. Happy birthday.
I still have my voicemails that I can listen to at any time I want. If I'm feeling down that day and I turn it on and he says, happy birthday to you. And so he sings it that way, and it just cracks me up. There's so many memories, so many good memories. But I think just his friendship and knowing that he was there through good times and bad. No matter if it was a good day for him or a bad day, he was there 100% for you, and that meant so much to me.
Speaks volumes of where we've grown in our relationship and how proud I think Chuck was of me becoming the head coach at Battle High School. He knew that this is what I was going to do with my life. I was going to be a football coach. Didn't know what level it was going to be at, but very, very fortunate to be able to do it in my hometown. And obviously, very fortunate to be able to do it in my hometown in a place where you have so much support with somebody like Chuck. And so for that to be the last tree that he was able to plant and to be, at Battle High School, where I plan to be for a very long time, very, very special to me. Very special to my family.
Chuck was a giver, and anybody that didn't have the pleasure to meet Chuck can't understand the level of giving that man gave to this community. And so from the ambassadors to Columbia Youth Football League to the Tiger Quarterback Club to any other of the countless organizations that he helped, he was a giver. And for him, that was what was important. And the fact that he was able to get those trees and earn those trees and put them at CYFL shows how much he cares about CYFL. And quite frankly, it shows how much people should care about CYFL because of Chuck.
Absolutely, Chuck has guided me through many instances in life and helped me and probably sometimes didn't even know it. And I will always remember that about him and the things that we shared. And he has the knack for saying the right thing at the right time and knowing when to say it, and just that one line could change your whole day.
We had a set of parents that were really, really upset, and they came storming up to Chuck because their son was not the quarterback, and he should have been the quarterback according to them. And they ranted and raved for quite a few minutes, and Chuck listened to him, didn't say a word. Then they stopped and they calmed down, and he said, is your son having a good time? Well, he loves football, he loves playing. He said, well, then this conversation's over. And he turned around and walked away and got back in the golf cart with me, and we drove off to the next field. And at that point I realized, this guy cares about those kids. And quite honestly, parents are gonna be upset because every parent wants their son or daughter to be the star and be this, but their son was having a blast playing football, and that's all that mattered to Chuck.
I sensed that he felt that I was going to get it done here when, there had been so many struggles in the years prior to me coming here. And for whatever reason, he sensed that. And he was when things got tough, and a lot of those weeks I showed up there, especially those first 4 years, when things weren't a whole lot of fun going to those quarterback club meetings on Mondays. But he was always, he protected me there too. He said the right things, did the right things, and he calmed people down, I think, before I got there often, which I'm very appreciative of. But he just really, he just kind of took me under his wing a little bit, and kind of when things got tough. And thank God he got to be around when things got a lot better, for a consistent amount of time. And I think he probably ran around town, telling everybody, I told you so.
Chuck had a very interesting career. Some of the things he did I knew him from insurance to, moving up into the insurance world to, motivational and educational type speaker to Award Pet Supply to, Chucky baby T-shirts to a lot of other things we won't go into. But he always had some kind of an idea that maybe it came from the ambassador meeting or just thought of on his own, and he would come in and sort of broach it with me to see what kind of thought what my thoughts were. And most of the time they were sometimes interesting, and others they weren't appropriate for whatever he was asking. And so I'd say, Chuck, I don't think that's going to work. I think we're going to have to try, maybe do it another way. And he said, I'd say, fine, that's fine, that's okay. And then he'd leave, and he never took a, and not that I know of, he never, maybe mumbled under his breath, but he really wasn't someone who held a grudge.
Anybody that knows Chuck knows that he would pout, and then he would either get his way or he would get over it. And so for the most part, he was a happy guy. He just made you laugh. He always loved people, loved being around people.
Chuck liked to take pictures, and he liked to be in pictures with women, not men. Well, yeah, he's not stupid.
You know, the thing about Chuck is everybody that knew Chuck, you know, he became a part of you a little bit because he was such a unique individual and such a great guy.
Towards the end of his life, you could really tell that he was declining, but he wouldn't let you know that he was declining. He kept telling you that he's fine, he's going to get stronger, he's going to get better, he's doing things to really make himself, he wants to get back on his feet, he wants to be able to do things that he used to do. And you could just tell by looking at him that he was given everything that he possibly had. And you know, that was just Chuck. He didn't give up easy.
When things were tough, he would try to, you know, keep things on the chuckle side of it, you know, and which I'm very appreciative of that. But he was just a funny character. He was just fun to be around with everybody, and you know, what a personality.
The guy is going to be so missed, not only in Columbia, but for us personally. It's going to be a sad year this year because he's not going to be there to talk to, and have him there counting the money over and over and over at that concession stand, which is what he loved to do, which was count the money all day long at the concession stand, and that was his job, and he loved it. So that part's going to be sad.
He was about community, about people, and really knew how to treat people and how to put a smile on everybody's face. And I think that's what I love and will miss the most about Chuck is just those simple conversations, and you can't help but be happy when you're around Chuck.
His smile. I will never forget that smile, and I miss it every day.
I think the most I'll miss about him is that crooked smile, that famous chuckle that he always gave. And that's the hardest thing, is because we look at certain things. We always knew Chuck was going to be at ribbon cuttings, or we always knew that Chuck was going to be at Spanky's, or not Spanky's, Sports Zone. We always knew wherever there was free food or freebies or anything else, Chuck was going to be there. And we find ourselves making reference to those things all the time, and you turn around to look and he's not there. And I think that's the part that hurts the most, is that we don't have him anymore.
The smile, you know, I mean, every time you seen him, didn't matter what health he was in, you know, what was going on in the world and in the community, he always had a smile on his face, and I think it's contagious. You know, it kind of made you forget about the worries and everything, and you look back and you think about all the years and all the things that he's done for this community. And it's one of those things that's special to me because I grew up in this community. So I really appreciate that because it's forever changing. And so you want our community to stay positive. And I think that he really left his mark, you know, on Columbia as being a positive place for both athletics, for businesses, and for everything that Chuck Everett stands for.